Hey everyone, Jen with the Budget Bounce, and I'm very excited to share my very special guest, Budget Girl. We are attending FinCon down in Orlando, Florida together this year. It's my first. Let me just say she is the entire reason that I'm here. I'm very thankful for that. And she was gracious enough to post an application for a scholarship in a Facebook group that we're in. And
Not
the
through
next
me,
thing you
through
know,
FinCon.
it was from FinCon. She shared it with everybody, and I was lucky enough to get one of those scholarships. So here we are. And if you've watched my channel, you know that I'm very excited about being here. So today, what we want to do, we want to talk to you about 5 ways that budgeting can change your life. Yeah, 5 of them. So what we're going to do is go through the 5, and we're each going to give an example of how that impacted us in our life. So I'm going to let Sarah go first.
So the first way that budgeting can change your life and why you should build a budget and have it in your life, absolutely every single one of you, is that it can alleviate your stress. So for me, money was always a very stressful issue. I tried to kind of ignore it. I got into $33,000 worth of student loan debt in college, and then went into the super high paying field of journalism where I had to then pay it off, making only $26,000 a year. Now I did in just 3 years on that budget, and I was able to do it because I had the budget in place. So because I had the budget, I had a tracked amount of all of my income and all of my expenses, and then everything else went to debt. And because I had that plan, I never overdraft. I never ended up with like collections calls or anything like that. It gave me a sense of peace because I knew that if I followed the budget, I would be okay that month.
Yeah, absolutely. And her story is very inspiring. So she is one of the very first people that I watched. I found her channel very early on, and she described it all the way through, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It is not always pleasant, but budgeting by far, when you want to talk about relieving stress, for me, I had actually been on a budget years ago before I met my husband, but then we went off of that. I had a wedding to plan, and then I just never got back to it. And that was, we got married 8 years ago. So yeah, it's been a long time. And what ended up happening was the one of the worst things that can happen, my husband stopped working unexpectedly, and we were already heading down a very slippery slope. But when he went off work, the first paycheck, we could not pay all of our bills that he missed. So for me, the stress was my husband was sick. There was a lot going on in my life that was just weighing on me, and I really lost it. And in January of this year, and I said, we're going back on a budget for the first time in years. And we did that, and literally within 2 weeks of starting that budget, I just felt a lot of that melt away. It just was finally
It stresses
gone.
me out to even think about not having a budget, and I know that sounds insane, but it gives me such a sense of peace to know that going into every single month there's a plan for all the money that is coming in and will come in, and I will be able to pay for anything I want to do, save for my future money goals, and I can't imagine being able to be that organized without the plan in place.
Okay, so number 2 that we want to talk to you about is it can absolutely help you meet whatever goals you have for your money. And that can vary from one person to another, one family to another, where you are in your life. It's affected by so many different things. But once you have told your money where to go, it goes there unless you tell it to do something else. Or unless you stop talking to it altogether. And then it just goes out the window.
It's not a good idea to stop talking to your money. It'll go do its own thing.
Yeah, so for me, it helped with, we had, money goals. Let's talk about my trip to FinCon. That was not expected. I won this scholarship. I found out on June 25th, and 3 months to the day later, I was on a plane flying to Orlando for this conference. And I had to get here, I had to eat, and I had to sleep somewhere. And while the conference was paid for, the rest of that we had to come up with.
So you had 3 months to budget for it.
I had 3 months to budget for it, and we luckily are able to cash flow that because
I'm very glad you did not put this trip on a credit card.
not a dime. And it was a matter of, so we have sinking funds, and so we just stopped our sinking funds and we set everything aside into one sinking fund, the travel fund.
So my main money goal for 3 years of my life was to get out of debt. So all of my extra money, other than my core expenses, my bills, my rent, etc., like that, were going to debt. And that was my goal, and I was able to meet it, and I was able to see marketed progress throughout the way because I had the budget every month. And at the end of the month, I saw how much money was left, and I put every single cent to that. And then I started a new month, and I was able to kind of trim where I go. And if there's something that comes up, I had the emergency fund, which was my very first money goal, $1,000 in an emergency fund just in case life happens. So that was my first money goal. I met it, and ever since then, I've been able to meet all the money goals I've set forward for myself. Emergency fund, getting out of debt, bigger emergency fund, traveling, funding a 401k, doing some investing. It's the game plan.
Yeah, it was so fun to watch you and see that, you know, some months you would just, it just kept growing and growing and growing, your snowball.
Yeah.
It was really fun to watch that. And some months it didn't. Things happened.
Things happened.
And
some months I had to like move to get a better job.
Yeah.
And that was, I had to redirect my money to the goal of having a moving fund.
Yeah.
And, you know, putting down deposits and everything like that. And there are often little times there where you have to put in your new deposits before you get your old deposits back.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of change where your money's going to go. But if you have a plan there, then you can always get back on the plan, and you can always change the plan to do what you need to do.
Sure thing. Yeah, that it's just been an amazing tool for my family and for Sarah. Very different situations. I was single when I did it the first time, but now I have a family, which is a lot different. It is just a lot different when you're budgeting for more than yourself. And Sarah did a fantastic job.
Thank you. So the next thing that a budget can help you do is to get out of debt, which I've already touched on, and that was my main money goal for 3 years. So my budget, I set it up every single month to where I was putting the maximum amount towards my debt, and I was able to do it. It was just tell your budget what to do, follow the budget, and that money goal is going to be met, and I was able to get completely out of debt. Once again, on a $26,000 salary for most of it.
Yeah. So, so getting out of debt, obviously, we are working on that right now. We are not debt free if you're new here. We actually started with $250,000 of debt when we started this on February 1st of this year. So we're 7 months in, and we've paid off $19,000. And that is, you know, while a lot of that is minimums because we have so many debts, we have been able to put extra almost every single month. And even this month when we have all these extra expenses for me to travel, there's going to be enough left over to pay for my ticket for next year.
Okay.
And because I budgeted well and I was, you know, did some frugal things while I was here, and we already had enough left over in our budget to pay off one of our medical bills that I'm going to be able to do when I get home.
That is amazing.
In a month,
non-internet, in real life, high five. Woo! Yes.
Number 4 is for budgeting and how it can change your life. Is it can give you the freedom to spend on the things that are important to you. And right now, in this stage of my life, when I look at the things that, you know, the extras that our family is spending on right now that maybe aren't needs, the budget bounce is one of them. And so there are some tools that I have that I pay for so that I'm able to, you know, do the best I can in putting things out here, the content for you guys. And so I put some money aside for the budget bounce every month. My husband also happens to have a small business, and we set a little bit aside for him each month. So, and these are our side gigs, right? These are side hustles. This is in addition to our full-time jobs, but it really gives us the freedom to say, okay, so we're just going to set a little bit aside because that's going to bring in, especially with his, is going to bring in more money than we're going to set aside for him to pay.
So the things that are important to me that I get to spend on in my budget has been lately travel. I got to be in 2 weddings this year as a bridesmaid.
Yeah.
And I was able to, of course, save for and cash flow those weddings.
And being a bridesmaid is not inexpensive.
Being a bridesmaid is not inexpensive, even if you have amazing friends that are kind of frugal-minded.
Yeah.
So I had to travel to Mississippi, and I traveled to Tennessee. And so that involved, you know, flights and all sorts of things, dresses, things like that, time off.
Yeah.
And it just didn't really affect my budget. I was able to save for that, put towards that, and it really gave me, my budget gave me the control and the freedom to be able to make sure I had enough money for those without changing anything else. So without affecting my other goals, which are save about half my income, invest, keep like a lot of money outside of my regular expenses, just going towards where I need it to go.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with Dave Ramsey's Baby Steps, let me just reiterate. I'm in baby step number 2. We've done number 1, the $1,000 emergency fund, and I'm in number 2, which is paying off all of our debt. Sarah has already killed those and moved past step number 3, which is a full emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of expenses. She's into 4, and 5 and 6 currently don't apply to her, so she's in 7.
I'm in 7.
She is
I
giving
am
and living like no one else.
living and giving like nobody else. It's fantastic. And it's really wonderful to have that 6-month emergency fund there just in case something happens. If I get sick, if someone in my family, something terrible happens, if I crash my car, if I lose my job, I am covered for 6 months because I was able to put that aside. And I was able to do awesome stuff like be a bridesmaid in weddings while still saving for that and meeting that in a very short time frame.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
And watching her go through it all and be successful, let me tell you guys, if you need some inspiration, you need to be watching
The budget
her
is the
story.
key. The budget is absolutely the key, and you can do all the things that I've been able to do, and so much more, if you just implement one.
Yeah.
So the final thing that a budget is going to give you is a sense of control over your life. If you're anything like me, back when I started, I had all this debt. I just lost my job. Maybe you have a job, but you have debt. You don't know where your money's going, which is kind of a terrifying thing. It comes in and then it goes out, and sometimes there are bills left to pay. Sometimes there are things that you want to do that you can't do because you don't have the money, and maybe you're going further into debt, and it's scary. Money can be scary, but it doesn't have to be.
Right.
And by budgeting for everything that comes in, it does require tracking what you do and holding yourself accountable, but it gives you a sense of control over your life. Absolutely. It has for me. Like I said, I cannot imagine being without a budget.
Right. So I don't know how we did it for so many years, but here's not doing it for so many years. Here's where it landed us. So I mentioned previously that we were $250,000 in debt when we went on a budget February 1st. And I really, I mentioned that time of my life was just very volatile. There was a lot going on. My husband was sick. We had the amazing experience of having our daughter and her fiance and granddaughter move in with us when she was just 2 weeks old. And so that was amazing, but it was a whole new element to our life because now we have essentially 5 adults living in the house. Yeah, 5 adults living in the house and the baby. And so that was just a change in my life. And, Matt was sick and Henry was dealing with, just all the change in his life. He's a teenager and his life kind of got turned upside down and that kind of thing, just having to move his room and all that kind of stuff. And so, so many things were just not within my control. And on the day that I really lost it, which was that morning that 7 collectors called me before noon on a Saturday, on that particular day, I literally, that 7th call came in and I felt like I had no control over anything, nothing in my life. And in that moment, I said, that's it. We are going on a budget. We are going to do the baby steps again. I just didn't even ask my husband. He was sitting right there and I said, we're doing it.
Money can be so emotional,
Yeah.
especially when you don't have it, especially when you don't know what's happening.
And it was the one thing I could get control over. I couldn't control everything happening with the people, but I could control the inanimate,
and money is
money.
just a tool.
Yeah.
That's all money is it's a tool, and it's like you have a screw, and the budget is a screwdriver. So you
Yes,
can
that's
either,
an amazing analogy.
Yeah, you can either use the tool to make the screw work for you, to make the money work for you, or you can try like pushing the screw into the wall with your hand, or losing it, or whatever.
Yeah. So that is 5 ways that budgeting can change your life. You might find 5 other ways that it changes your life, but these were the things that were really significant for Sarah and I. And she talks about she can't imagine not being on a budget. I can't either, because honestly, we would run out of money 10 days before the end of the month and have no idea why.
Terrifying.
It's really
and
scary. Yeah, and
you don't know where the money went either.
we had no clue. I could not tell you that $250,000, while I have the balances and who they were with, I could not tell you what probably 2/3 of that was on.
Yeah. So we highly recommend that you do a budget. If you need to know how to, do you have a video on your channel on how to do a budget?
I do have some budgeting 101 videos, so I can link them down in the description and maybe put some things up here in the card for you.
And if you want to learn how to live big life on a budget, get out of debt, and just feel more control over your money, you can come over to my channel and check me out. I hope I can teach you something.
Oh, she can. No question. So anyhow, so thanks everyone for being with us today. Again, thank you, Sarah, so much for joining me and being my guest. And we will be back on our regular weekly schedule here soon. So, and I'm going to have things from FinCon, and I'm going to have all kinds of stuff to put up over the course of the next month or so. So, and new people to collaborate with that I met here and that kind of thing. So, be looking for some exciting things. But in the meantime, I'm going to let Sarah go, and I'm going to let you guys go. And until next time.
Don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you like this content. And I hope you enjoyed having me here. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.